Alright, good morning. You're welcome to yet another interesting edition of Aloore newspaper review coming to you from from the stables of GSM Studio here at the Ministry of Information, Culture and Tourism sector at Agodi, Ibadan. My name is Olamide Adeniji and I'll be bringing you stories from the Punch newspaper and the Nation newspaper. Okay, straight to the headlines. I have this first headline from the Punch newspaper, which says Labour blames government officials meet FG today. And then we also have this interesting one. German Chancellor visits Tinubu, gives ECOWAS 81 million euro for security orders. Importers return to parallel market as Naira rebounds. Lagos begins demolition of Ikoyi structures near drainage. Deaths near 10,000 UN warns of civil unrest in Israel-Hamas war. Challenging P and ID fraud saved Nigeria $15 billion. That's coming from Buhari. Federal government seeks speedy delivery of Turkish attack helicopters. Okay, I'm bringing this next one from the Nation newspaper, which says NLC threatens boycott of today's review meeting with federal government. Court stops Labour's Occupy Imo plan. Business obstacles to go. Tinubu assures investors. Explosion rocks river house of assembly complex. Illegal fishing a threat to blue economy. Losing P and ID. Okay, twin of that story is on the Nation newspaper too, on page 6. Losing P and ID case would have cost Nigeria $15 billion, says Buhari. Boat with 100 on board capsizes in Taraba. NNPCL withholds 13.27 trillion naira from FAC. Okay, and then we have so many stories here. Federal government Labour meets today on 15-point MOU implementation. Tinubu Barau Abbas Ganduje Mon Ohinoi of Ebira. That's the monarch of Ebira land. And then 1.2 million euros equipment for Eco Bridge. And then this next one, the Aloore movie launch. Federal government begins sensitization in Abuja. Nadeko to Tinubu restructure Nigeria. And then I also have this one coming from River State. Okay, I read that earlier. Explosion rocks rivers out of assembly complex. And then foreign reserves build up, raises hope on Naira. And echoes Gbajabi Amila to critics, president's team not driven by money politics. Diri cautions monarchs against partisanship. Why Uzodinma should be re-elected by cleric. Imo governor has done well. APC tells voters. Okay, we have so many stories here. When we return, we're going to bring you full details of the stories, both on the Punch newspaper and the Nation. Stay tuned.
Whether you're a native of Ibadan or a visitor, Aloore Radio brings you closer to the heart and soul of Oyo State and beyond. Aloore Radio, the online radio that amplifies the voice of Oyo State. Let us take you on a journey across continents as we bring you latest news, captivating stories, and diverse perspectives from around the globe. From breaking news headlines to fascinating features, discover the stories that shapes our society and the voices that demand to be heard. It's newspaper review on Aloore Radio.
Hello there. You're welcome. You're welcome back. I'm bringing my first story from the Punch newspaper, which says Forex crisis, Labour blames government officials meets FG today. The Nigeria Labour Congress on Sunday lamented the devastating impact of the forex crisis and officials' love for foreign luxury products for the free fall of the national currency. And then, okay, this is also coming. There's a rider to that. Labour warns minister. You will recall that the decision we had on the National Union of Road Transport Workers was that all parties, including the police, should leave the premises pending the resolution of the dispute, but that did not happen. Therefore, any meeting we will have with the federal government, the Minister of Labour and Employment will not be part of it. The Labour leader vowed. Okay, that's coming from the Nigerian Labour Congress. It's a whole page on page 2 of the Nigerian Punch newspaper. Sorry, and then this is also coming from. Okay, this is coming from the Metro page. Metro page of the Punch newspaper. Okay, says Ogun shuts recycling company over industrial pollution. The Ogun State government on Sunday said it had shut a recycling company, Max Metal Recycling Limited, in the Shagamu area of Ogun State for deliberate industrial pollution, which exposed residents to danger. You may read more of that story on page 4, which is the Metro page of the Punch newspaper. Lagos shop owners demand compensation 3 years after demolitions. Some traders and business owners whose shops were demolished for the expansion of a cotton roundabout in the Alimosho local government area of Lagos State have cried out for help. Punch Metro learnt that the demolition was carried out in 2020 with over 90 shops in the complex affected. You may read more of that story on page 4, the Metro page of the Punch newspaper. Delta police nab suspected robbers, recover munitions. Operatives of the Delta State Police Command have arrested 6 suspected armed robbers, some of whom have already been charged to court. 2 English-made pistols and 4 locally made guns were also recovered from the hoodlums. You may read more of that story on page 4, the Metro page of the Punch newspaper. And don't forget, you may join us on our Facebook page, www.facebook.com/Aloore Radio. You could also join us on subscribe on our YouTube channel at Aloore Radio, and our website www.alooreradio.com is still live. And you could also download our mobile apps on the Google Play Store. Thank you for always joining. Okay, I'm bringing this next story from the Nation newspaper. Nadeko to Tinubu restructure Nigeria. The National Democratic Coalition, Nadeko, yesterday urged President Bola Tinubu to restructure the country to foster true federalism. The group, of which the president is a member, congratulated him over his victory at the Supreme Court. A statement by the Secretary, Ayo Okpadokun, said the Nigerian state should recognize the necessary and desirable return to federal constitutional governance upon which Nigeria secured our independence. Okay, you may read more of that story on page 4 of the Nation newspaper. And then, okay, I have a twin of the story I read earlier on page 1 of the Nation newspaper. Says NLC threatens boycott of today's review meeting with federal government. Today's meeting between the federal government and Labour to review the memorandum of understanding signed to prevent the October 3 planned strike is threatened. NLC President Joe Ajero said yesterday that should Labour Minister Simon Lalong show up at the venue, his team would boycott the party. The meeting is at the BS of the Office of the Chief of Staff to the President, Ajero confirmed. The NLC also reaffirmed its planned strike in Imo State on Wednesday, over unpaid wages and other alleged anti-labor practices. You may read more of that story on page 1 of the Nation newspaper. And then I'm bringing this next one from the Nation newspaper to Tinubu Barao Abbas Ganduje Mon Ohinoi of Ebira. President Bola Tinubu has mourned the Ohinoi of Ebira land, Dr. Ado Ibrahim, describing his death as a painful loss. A statement by his special advisor on media and publication and publicity, Ajuri Ngeladi, described the late monarch as peace-loving, affable, and cerebral. You may read more of that story on page 4 of the Nation newspaper. And this is coming from Faraway Rivers. Explosion rocks Rivers House of Assembly complex. There was an explosion at the Rivers State House of Assembly yesterday. The cause of the explosion was not known. It was gathered that the complex located on Moscow Road was engulfed by fire after a loud bang was heard at about 8 p.m. last night. You may read more of that story on page 6 of the Nation newspaper. And then this is also coming from page 6. Losing P&ID case would have cost Nigeria $15 billion, says Buhari. Nigeria has lost its arbitration dispute with Process and Industrial Development P&ID. It would have cost the country about $15 billion, former President Muhammadu Buhari has said. He noted that his former Chief of Staff, the late Abba Kyari, and the Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, were mandated to find a way out of the issue. Okay, you may read more of that story on page 6 of the Nation newspaper. I'm bringing this next one. Diri cautions monarchs against partisanship. Monarchs in Kolokuma or Kuma local government area of Bayelsa State having conferred chieftaincy titles on Governor Diri and his deputy Senator Lawrence Erudiako. Okay, Diri was conferred the title of Olotu Peke 1, the one and only champion of Kolokuma or Bokuma, while his deputy received the title of Koro Okpo 1, the strong one of Kolokuma Okpokuma. Okay, you may read more of that story. It's coming from page 8 of the Nation newspaper. Gbajabiamila to critics. President's team not driven by money politics. The Chief of Staff to the President, Femi Gbajabiamila, yesterday chided critics peddling rumors that he would be sacked by the Commander-in-Chief. He said the rumors were a figment of imagination by the peddlers, adding that President Bola Tinubu's team is not driven by money politics. You may read more of that story on page 8 of the Nation newspaper. Okay, let me bring this next story from the Punch newspaper, which says stay out of politics. Okay, Tinubu Mons Oyi. Okay, I've read those ones on the Nation newspaper, and this is coming from Ekiti State on page 8 of the Punch newspaper. Oyebanji approves 136 million naira car loan for 358 workers. Ekiti State Governor Mr. Abiodun Oyebanji has approved the disbursement of 136 million naira as a car loan for 368 civil servants in the state. The Commissioner for Finance, Mr. Akin Yebode, said amounts ranging from 80,000 naira to 1.5 million naira will be disbursed to beneficiaries of the loan scheme depending on their grade levels. You may read more of the story on page 8 of the Punch newspaper. Okay, let me quickly jump to the next page, which is on page 14 of the Punch newspaper. Says Germany gives ECOWAS 81 million euro to tackle climate change orders. The Federal Republic of Germany has granted the Economic Community of West African States (ECOWAS) 81 million euro to help addressing security, infrastructure deficits, and climate change, among others. The President ECOWAS Commission, Omar Touré, made this known at a press conference when he received the Chancellor of the Federal Republic of Germany, Olaf Scholz, in Abuja on Sunday. You may read more of this story on page 14 of the Punch newspaper. And then I'm bringing this next story from the Punch newspaper as well. Tinubu receives German Chancellor seeks stronger ties. President Bola Tinubu on Sunday stated that with last Thursday's Supreme Court verdict affirming his electoral victory, distractions are over for his administration. Consequently, Tinubu said he has a renewed focus to pursue his agenda towards Nigeria's economic prosperity. You may read more of that story on page 14 of the Punch newspaper. Alright, I'm bringing this next story from page 14 as well. Minister sensitizes traders to Iyaloja money. The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Dr. Betta Edu, has begun a market sensitization ahead of the unveiling of Iyaloja money, a federal government non-interest loan to be given to market women and petty traders across the country. You may read more of that story on page 14 of the Punch newspaper. And then let me bring this next story from the let's fly to okay, we're still on the Punch newspaper. Edo refineries to boost Nigeria's capacity, says Wobote. Wobote is Executive Secretary, Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, Simbi Wabote, sorry. Okay, and then I'm bringing this next story from page 18 of the Punch newspaper. Oyo appeals shown of Ogbomosho's removal. The Oyo State government has filed an appeal to challenge last Wednesday's judgment by Justice Karim Adedokun of the State High Court, which ordered the removal of Obagandi Olaoye as the Sean of Ogbomosho. Ogun plans state burial for Alaba Lawson. Governor Dapo Abiodun of Ogun State on Sunday disclosed plans by the state government to set up a committee that will work out a befitting burial for the late Iyalode of Yoruba land, Chief Mrs. Alaba Lawson. The late Lawson died on Saturday at the age of 72 after a brief illness. You may read more of that story on page 18. Ondo Assembly not divided, i.e. that it was impeachment majority leader. The majority leader of the Ondo State House of Assembly, Mr. Oluwole Ogunmolashuyi, says it is untrue that the Assembly members are divided over the moves to impeach the state's deputy governor, Lucky Ayedatiwa, over alleged gross misconduct. It was reported that the impeachment process suffered a setback following a disagreement among the Ondo lawmakers. You may read more of that story on page 18 of the Punch newspaper. Okay, let me bring this next story. Lagos begins demolition of Ikoyi structures near drainage. The Lagos State government will today, Monday, begin the removal of perimeter fences within 2 meters of drainage channels on the Norman Williams, Awolowo and Ribadu roads in the Ikoyi area of the state. The state's Ministry of Environment and Water Resources, in a statement on Sunday, said the exercise comes after the expiration of the grace period given to the property owners in the affected areas. You may read more of that story on page 18 of the Punch newspaper. And then this is also coming from Ondo Commissioner to stay done as part of its mandate to ensure sustainable development in Southwest. Development Agenda for Western Nigeria Commission has appointed Ondo State Commissioner for Regional Integration and Diaspora Relations, Prince Boy Ologbese, as Chairman, State Focal Officer to evaluate, coordinate, and maintain relations trajectory to the region. You may read more on this story on page 29 of the Nation newspaper. We will deliver Olodo Bridge on schedule, says contractor. The contractor handling Ibadan Iwo Ogbomo Oshogbo Road, Peculiar Ultimate Concerns Limited, has assured the people of Oyo State, especially users of the road, that all hands are on deck to finish the reconstruction of Olodo Bridge on schedule. You may read more of that story on page 29 of the Nation newspaper. Methodist Cathedral celebrates 70th anniversary. All is now set for members and well-wishers of Methodist Church Nigeria Cathedral of Blessing, Palm Avenue, Mushin, Lagos, to celebrate the 70th anniversary of its existence as a church. You may read more of that story on page 29 of the Nation newspaper. And then, I'm taking my next story from the Punch newspaper, I guess. This is coming from Southeast. Ohaneze urges Southeast youths to join police. IPOB alleges bias. The Apex Igbo social cultural group Ohaneze Ndigbo worldwide has appealed to youths in the Southeast to join the Nigerian police force. Okay, you may read more of that story on the Punch newspaper. So if you are from Southeast, Ohaneze Ndigbo has urged you to join the Nigerian police force. Social media unintended consequences. Okay, I'm taking that from the editorial of the Punch newspaper. And then let me bring this next story to you from the Punch newspaper too. That's on page 31 of the Punch newspaper. Challenging P&ID fraud saved Nigeria 15 billion. Okay, that's a story I read earlier on the Nation newspaper. You may grab a copy of the Punch newspaper to have a full gist of that story. Okay, and then this is coming from Pencom. Workers access 986 million naira pension savings for mortgage. That's coming from Pencom. No fewer than 90 workers have accessed 986 million naira out of their retirement savings account with their pension fund administrators to enable them acquire residential mortgage as of the end of June 2023. Okay, I think at this juncture I'm gonna call it a day, but the Punch newspaper is telling us that Fury admits he underestimated Ngannou. There was a fiery fight between Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou, where Tyson Fury actually won the bout. And then this is coming from the Nation's sports desk. Osime Oshuala Messi order knows fate today, and Aruna faces Danish star at WTT Champions Frankfurt. You may grab copies of the Punch newspaper and the Nation to get more of these stories. Thank you for staying tuned. God bless you.
Share, listen to Aloore Radio on Facebook.